agenda, since I'm assuming everyone here is present to speak about the Italian Hall site plan, would anyone object to amending the agenda to put petitions from the public after item 2? So just before we go to the Italian Hall site.
No, could we also add an agenda item? We received an email from Leah Holting about trick or
Yeah,
treating.
she's going to come at a regular council meeting.
That's adequate time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I told
She
her
said
to
that would be
contact
fine.
us.
It's 2 weeks, yeah, it's 2
Okay,
weeks.
right.
Also, the DDA meeting that you can.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
So,
then
yeah, so
we
she's
don't
got
have
2
to
weeks,
take
but she's
action.
fine with waiting for the general, our regular meeting. So, is there a motion then to accept the agenda moving item 1 to between 2 and 3?
I make that motion.
Sandy? All right.
I'll support it.
Okay, Burge. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So the first item then is the snow go clutch repair. So Steve, do you want to talk about that?
What we've got is the backup snow boat that we bought a couple years back is in need of a clutch. You know, it's a 68, and it's the clutch that runs the blower from the back engine. It's not the engine, the drive clutch. It's actually the snow clutch. And last year I had some experiences with it. We put probably a little over $100 on it, and towards the end, the bigger the pile I go into, it would slow right down to a stop. And this is something that they have been known to do as they get older. And it's probably never talking to Holton, it's never been done. And part of the reason probably they sold it because they knew this was going to happen eventually. And it's normally a situation. Normally I could probably do it myself, but we're not adequately set up to do it. It's a big job. The estimate is 2 to 3 weeks, and they have all overhead cranes, and some of those parts are taken off for 600-700 pounds, and I'm just not set up for it. As much as I'd love to do this job, it's a liability for myself and for my guys and for the council if we're trying to do something like this. So I'm recommending that we look at this estimate that I got from Beckel Diesel. They've done some work for me in the past and been very good at it. He's willing to take it on, but as you can see, there's a price to it. And he's estimating 2 or 3 weeks of work. And I'm hoping that some of the money, right now I don't know where I stand exactly on my budget for maintenance to our equipment, but I'm hoping some of the money will come out of my maintenance fund, and then also some of the money that we got for the used equipment this year. Because this wasn't planned on happening. So I didn't foresee this coming. And it was one of these that just happened in March and April. And what we usually do with this machine is, once I'm done grading or once I'm done working, what I do is I go back and have to clean the dumps that the guys are hauling because the dumps fill up. And then this thing works, probably 6 hours. Whenever we're hauling snow, this thing has to go in and blow the dumps to keep our space open. So it is a critical part of the machine, and then if the other one goes down, then I've got this one to use. And last winter, there was a couple of times where I had to use this one on the streets. So it's in good shape other than that. So I'd like to have you look at it and see what you think, and we can discuss it. And it's a critical part of the equipment, especially for the winter.
Could you give me the number on what we made on the sale of these equipment? Give me a ballpark.
I thought it was
3,800.
4,000.
Because I think at one of our meetings, we made a motion.
We specifically set that aside.
Specifically for
Used by the
our,
street department.
so I would like to see, I don't know if that's happened or not, is it still in the general fund? I guess it doesn't matter, as long as we can denote that fund to go back to Steve for that. Because then we're looking at just maybe a couple $100, that's all we're looking at. So it shouldn't be, so that kind of worked out perfect in the all of the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was,
I don't
that very much
think
it was in.
this expenditure would have been possible if we wouldn't have had that extra money, because this wasn't planned on. And it is a big job, but that's the problem. I do it myself, but we're just not set up.
Any other questions for Steve? If not, I mean, do you want to authorize Steve to go ahead with this repair? I mean, if so, I would need a motion to authorize the expenditure of approximately $4,100. Is that correct?
Yeah, like he says, he quoted this price as a rough estimate because it's so hard to get parts for these, and I told him I'd work with it as much as I could to get, even if I can get parts cheaper. So this is a rough.
It says estimates will be within 10% of the final bill, so
Yes.
10% would be approximately $400. So if we did 4,500, that should be adequate, up to 4,500?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to
I'll make a
that?
motion that we allow the money being spent put aside for Steve to get the snow thrower repaired.
Okay, so you can expend up to $4,500.
$4,500.
Okay. Okay, so that's Sharon. Okay, makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Birch? All right, because this entails an expenditure of funds, I'm going to do a roll call vote. So Jim?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Birch?
Yes.
Peggy?
I'm a yes, but I think when you take a closer look at the budget, you find this money in
We'll
the
find
State
it.
Department.
One way or another,
We
I'll
haven't produced equipment, most of it.
yeah, it'll use up
Yeah.
that fund, which is a good thing we have.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right, so, all right, and I'm a yay, so, okay, motion passes 6-0. All right, so you're authorized to go
Thank you very much. Oh, and one other thing, FYI, he started on our storm sewer.
Is that what they're doing over there on 9th Street?
Yeah, that's
That's where all the equipment and everything
That's
is?
our snow dump,
Mhm.
and they're starting on it now, and they say they're gonna be done within a week. So that'll help drain that whole water down there.
Awesome.
And it's right in the, actually in the alleyway, so if we ever sell a property, it's still part of the right of way in the alley. So I think it's gonna come out for everybody now.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve, have a good night. So next is going to be petitions from the public. You have 5 minutes to speak. You know, I didn't bring a watch. Can somebody do the check 5 minutes?
Sandy, can-
Sandy? Okay, so it's, you each have 5 minutes to speak, so who would like to address the council? Joanne?
Oh, no, no.
Oh,
we're just-
sorry. All right. Oh, okay, Nathan?
Yeah, Italian Park, the Italian Hall Park is right next door to where I live. You know, I enjoy it every single day. You know, I talk to a lot of my neighbors talk to me, because as most of you know, I stay quite involved in the area. You know, I pretty much try to make sure I know what's going on. You know, a lot has been made to, things should be done this way, and things should be done another way, and this about names and this about names. You know, but what I found through it all is that there's a lack of willingness, we'll say, on many fronts, because it's not one side or two sides. It's not one committee or another committee. It's a combination of all of it. You know, it's where people feel like they can't work with other people because they may be strong-willed or strong opinion. But that is not the case. You know, everybody in this room, I think, is fairly educated, fairly level-headed. We all can move with them. You know, especially if we feel like we're not being treated fairly, or if we feel like we've been misled. You know, a few years ago, before I actually bought my house, I've been living there for 7 years now, maybe almost 8. When my landlord died, I bought my house. But before he died, the park, a year before that, gave us 8 days to clear the property off the parking lot where the Italian Hall is. No notice, no communication, nothing. You know, the residents in the area feel like they're not being communicated with. You know, I'm not saying that some people aren't making an effort. I'm not here to blast anybody. What I'm here is to point out that that's the way people actually feel. People want to be involved. There's people that step up to be involved, but they feel they will only be turned away because of their economic status, their social status, or their beliefs. And these are valuable ideas that can come to the village, you know. I mean, you don't have to be Superman and do it all yourself. You know, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes constantly. I'm not right about everything. But before I come and talk about something, I always try to make sure I know what I'm talking about. I don't just go by my gut. I don't go by my ideology. Just because I believe something should be that way, I don't use that as the basis for which I speak. You know, basis which I speak is fair and under the law. You know, and the law's there to level the playing field. You know, these subcommittees and these that don't come under our legislative bodies, they pretty much operate free. You know, they can do whatever they like. You know, I'm not saying they're bad ideas, but if they're not inclusive, you know, they're not thinking of the people that they're trying to serve. We have really great ideas, you know. You got to be more inclusive, or controversy like this is going to last even another 100 years. You know, not only the children, but the minors before them, and their parents, and then their children and their grandchildren, they deserve a little better than the exclusiveness that was part of the tragedy and the exclusiveness that continues on to this day. And with that, I commend you all, because I really think overall it's a good idea. Everybody's heart's in the right place. But we need to get our heads in the right place.
Are you finished, Nathan? Are you finished, Nathan?
Yes.
Okay, yes, Bob.
Thank you for your comments. My understanding was the Galleon Hall Committee invited people to participate, and I would have loved to have you on.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the council? Art, okay.
Excuse me, sorry for the interruption. We have something going on upstairs tonight, and there's going to be lots of people coming through. You might want to close your doors so we don't interrupt your meetings.
Okay.
I should have told you earlier, I forgot. My apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Possibly this, there was also a stone on this site with a further at the Italian Hall. It sits right where the proposed memorial is going to go, where it's that circular right in the center. It sits off to the side. It's like a stone, sound stone. And that would be kind of in the way here at the time we proposed to move that right to the back, just it can be picked up, right to the, this is brick walkway, right on the end.
I'll add to that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's believed to be a cornerstone of the Italian Hall. It's sandstone, a block, a square block. And on it right now is this plastic cover over a picture, an old picture of the Italian Hall, and it's quite weathered. That's what's there right now. And so one thing we would like to have decided is where then to relocate it so that it's out of the way of the construction to put the monument. Plus, it's also situated in a place that everybody would agree is a good place for it. So I'm just reiterating. You were saying that that it be located then. Here's the sidewalk, and then the brick path. It's not noticed unless you walk on there and go all the way back. The brick path makes like a cross back here. That's what this is. This diagram. And then some of us were thinking that a location for it could be right at the end. Just kind of balances it. It's centered. There's only one. And then the park, I was talking to Joe before, and the park was like when we get confirmation, which we think is about 90-some% confirmed that that is a cornerstone, that there could be some message on there, you know, that, right, that the park would, like a historical description of it. eventually, not immediately, but at some point. So,
We can't commit to that right now.
oh, no, I know, but it's.
So that's not part of anything you're considering as part of your proposal.
No, I know. It was a suggestion for down the road that it's not like just push there to be out of the way. It's, you know, although there might be other better locations, if anybody has a better location idea. But if it's there, it's just that down the road it could be also utilized as a historical.
Well, it's
park.
easily moved. It's not that.
All right. Anyone else want to address the council? Thank you.
My only concern is that any movement of pieces around that space will require equipment, and I don't know I haven't looked at how deep that sits in the ground or anything like that, but I would request that the council be certain that no archaeological resources are going to be impaired by moving that stone or any other piece of this, that we make sure that everything goes the way it was planned to go when the clearance was done.
So you guys would work with the park and make sure that that is done properly? Okay.
With us.
Sorry.
With us in the audience.
Sure. For those who don't know me, I'm Tim Scarlett from Michigan Tech. I'm an archaeologist in the faculty there. We have for a few years been trying to help facilitate this process by making the archaeological work that's necessary happen. And we're happy to help with this too. So whatever is necessary, we'll be able to facilitate. It's just a question of communicating about when stuff needs to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, I have,
Oh,
can I ask one question?
absolutely.
Where that stand is, does that need to be moved before you put in the new monument?
I mean, it's a state marker?
No, your
The-
granite.
the-
No, the
The
cornerstone. The
Cornerstone.
That cornerstone,
No.
no, it does not have to be moved before you put in, okay, I'm just double
Yeah,
checking.
but the state marker has to get moved, because that's where the memorial is going, and I need that.
And another thing I'd like to add is I met with Mr. Lonnie with our street, street fellow over there to take a look at it. And the one thing that was done that we were unaware of at the last meeting was Michigan Tech went there and they did sort of some little digs and check things out. So they have been very, very good to Mr. Lonnie and to the village to make sure that there's not anything, value, historic value, whatever. So we thank you for that. That was very nice of you. The one thing I find unacceptable there is the garbage can. When I walk over there, because I live fairly close, every time I walk by there, I can see this big red garbage can, and it needs to go. It's just an eyesore. That's the first thing you see is when you go there's that garbage can.
It just needs to be moved to a different location.
Well, it's being used for people in the neighborhood to put stuff in, I mean, if you're gonna look at a memorial in your cars right there, you're not gonna slap your garbage bag over there. I mean, it's just a big old eyesore, I think, but that's my opinion.
I also brought that up to Joe from the park, and she says, oh yeah, that'll go. I mean, that's kind of a given.
It needs to be put on the side because if people are stopping there, they need a place to put their garbage. It can be off to the side, not in the center, but I believe it should be there.
I don't want to interrupt, but Joe does not necessarily speak for the funding of the park to do anything at all with that trash can. So I would request respectfully that we go through a process before we assume that the park will take care of that.
We're not
I'm not trying to be
We're not asking.
No, but I just heard her say
No,
that
no,
Joe
no.
said the park would. Yeah.
We will have the street department put it either where you can't see it very good or we'll remove it altogether because it is just a giant eyesore, like right almost where the stone is going to go. It's very close to where that is. It's
Yeah.
terrible. The
I would
aesthetics are
suggest
terrible.
you just take it out because
That's what I suggest too. Yeah.
really the trend. Even in the bigger national parks now, we're asking people to pack it out, and certainly there they could take their trash.
Exactly. I even peeked in it to see what kind of trash was in it. I didn't get that nosy. Imagine that.
You're brave.
And it's, well, it just seemed to be like like little nothing, maybe neighborhood kids put a popsicle stick and there was some cups and there was stuff like that. I would suspect most people that are gonna come and pay their respects and look at that memorial aren't gonna drink their coffee and drop it on the ground. You know, I don't suspect we're gonna get those kind of people. Now, to me, it's A and eyesore, and B, it's just someplace for somebody in the neighborhood that doesn't wanna pay for garbage to put their garbage. That's the way I feel about it. But I'm one of just a few, so.
Okay,
But we
so,
wouldn't request that.
okay, so we're here to decide if we want to approve the site plan or not, so, I mean, okay, oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Absolutely.
Michigan Tech had a dig there. What did they find? Anything?
Sure, yeah, I just found out about this meeting 2 days ago, otherwise I would have written a summary up for this. But essentially, we confirmed a lot of what we knew from 2012 when we did some more testing, that as everyone here I think knows, the building was knocked down into its own foundation, so that then it was essentially filled with rubble, and then buried with clean sand by a contractor, and then a modern soil built up on top of that. In the area then, the footprint of the building, the entire inside is rubble, which we would say from the 1980s, right? And that's buried fairly deeply underneath that sand, so that the work that might go on here would not necessarily impact anything in the middle of the building. As you get to the edges of the building, then the historic ground surfaces are much more shallow, right? But the design changes are in the middle of that building. The only exception to all of that, and if you've been out to the monument, you can see the uneven settling in the brick path. That is the central load-bearing wall of the Italian Hall. It's just about 10 inches under the surface, not that far. Philosophically, of course, decisions are up to the village about what they want to do. The idea, as a professional, that I would recommend would be do the least necessary in order to build to do the landscaping. And that's really a conversation we have with the contractor about how deep do they need to go to prepare a stratum to put a concrete walkway, and then to what extent, if at all, they have to remove some of that central load-bearing wall. But generally speaking, I think 10 inches is probably going to be more than enough. But again, I can't speak for the contractor.
But all of this is what you're saying is it's insignificant with this building because there's no artifacts involved, there's no human bones involved. It's only mortar. It's only mortar.
Right. That's
and it seems to be getting out of hand. One goes to the other. We did a dig. It's not like you're doing a dig. I'm not condemning what you're doing, but as I see a dig, I'm involved with some digs that I've done down in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And we find artifacts, we find human remains. Isn't that something, for the dig? But here, you're looking at sand, you're looking at mortar, you're looking at nothing. You're looking at, I don't even use the word garbage, but it's just nothing, really.
Right.
And I don't see the significance in wasting the time.
Well, and again, that's a conversation you guys can have outside of
No,
because we're really here to look at the site plan.
But it seems like it's taken so long to do this site, and it's just bickering back and forth over just minute little things.
Okay, that's an impertinent observation, so, okay.
I'll be real quick.
Okay, one more.
To address both of you, I agree with Jim, there's not much there in certain places, but that load-bearing wall has a certain value in itself. It tells a story. And when I did my porch, and I did excavating, there's another wall, another structure right there. And I found things that you would say are artifacts from the 20s, from the 30s. It's not really going to apply to this project. It is important that those guys, they get to at least take a look.
Well, I'm not saying it isn't.
But I just feel like, I didn't want to take away from the value of just looking because of my experience where I'm at. Because a lot of that rubble and fill that they use had artifacts in it. I've had people approach me want to dig out there because there are some things, and my hat's off to you, and I hope that I get to meet you and talk to you about some real things.
Sure.
Okay, we can go back to the site plan. Mike, do you want to say anything about it? Trustees, do you have any questions on the site plan?
I'd just like to share my viewpoint, and it's paternalism is alive and well in the village of Calumet. I need to preface my remarks by saying that I believe that the Italian Hall Memorial Park Committee did not welcome any agenda other than the one they determined was best for the people. I believe they tried to do their best, but as Churchill remarked, we cannot simply do our best, we must do what is required. What was required, in my opinion, was input from the public, from those who lost family members to those who live here now. If two heads are better than one, just think how powerful the collective voice of all of our people would have been when they got to select the monument. They could have fully embraced your plan, Lynn. It's with great sadness that I say the Italian Hall Committee, which is a volunteer group spearheading the project, the Public Buildings and Grounds Committee, and the Village Council together with the Calumet National Historical Park all ignored their responsibilities in ensuring that the monument was the best, most accurate tribute to the victims possible. No one heeded my words to slow down or verify the spellings of names when I stated to each body that there were misspellings. After 104 years, I did not see any haste to get the monument done. And so maybe tonight, my silence will speak louder than any admonition that I can repeat again. In closing, instead of healing the wounds of the strike in 1913, for me, the monument will stand as another example of silencing the voice of the people. As a final caveat, please note that if you use public money and public land, you're obligated to listen to the public. If you use your own money, your own property, you're not required to ask anyone else's opinion. And I say power to the people and the people's purse. When I cited that there were problems with the table, Mike, it was my past experience with one of your committee members, Reverend Langseth, when the park was dedicated years ago. He used my material, presented it in public without my permission, and I was not even invited. When I went to the Coppertown from my book, they had cut off my copyright information. When they prepared booklets through the name of the park and sold them after this dedication, they used my material without my permission, and it's only because I could cite many, many other instances. I did want credit for my work because I have spent over 40 years researching this. Number one, today, for example, I wrote this years ago, I wrote this years later, and I'm finishing my third one. It's not just a fluke. In the last 3 weeks, I've had 5 members that lost members of their family to my home for dinner. The Manleys, for one, and I feel that I was not given the opportunity to help, because if I wanted to claim credit for my work, my 40 years of work, I didn't want any pay, but I wanted credit for my names that you had already decided who was going to do the names. And today I almost cried when I went to I only could see part of your marker, but it had the name Niemela. I'm related to the Niemelas, the Wickstroms, the Kitties, and Niemela was Niemala. When I did my book, I started, and maybe this will be like a primer for all of you. I went to the telephone book, and I looked, were there any Niemelas with ELA or ALA? And they were all ELA. Then I went to the area wide directory. They were all ELA. Then I went to the death certificates, they're all in this book, somebody could have looked it up. And they were all ELA. The census information is ALA branded, but census takers were just people and they brought in their own ethnic spellings to their project. So I didn't have the heart to go through any more, but I know you tried, but you made your decision to proceed without carefully researching the names, and maybe there'll be more dialogue from the public as they try to discuss this incident. So it might bring more attention to this tragedy, which is the overall outcome. But it's with sadness that I can't fully support it because I wanted to. Thank you.
I don't want to get into, yeah. So are there any questions specifically related to the site plan? Okay, and then, if not, we are here to approve or disapprove the site plan. So, is there a motion to approve the site plan? Do you have one question? Yeah, before we do that.
I have one thing to add. When I went to work with Mr. Lottie and Steve Kellogg, the one marker is in the front, it's connected to the sidewalk, and it's just regular cement color, if you take a look at it. Now, the other one's going to be on the other side, it's going to be also cement, and I suggested to Mr. Lottie to make it sort of blend with the ambiance of that memorial site, that maybe we could stain the concrete to match the sandstone color, and it wouldn't be cement, and then the brick and sandstone color. And he was up to wanting to do that, just to make it look like it was more cohesive.
I did bring that up, if I can speak.
Yes.
I did bring that up to the designer of the site plan, Mr. Steve, architect, to worker at the park. And he mentioned reasons why it has some downplay by changing the color. Would you see?
So that was something that came up early as well. When we developed the site plan, it was very general, very conceptual, and very much to address the constraints that we were provided. And one of those is budgetary constraint. And so when we get into dyeing concrete, it means that there's an additional charge for the material as well as washing out of the truck. However, that wasn't the only reason that we avoided the use of that material. We felt that the site needed to be unified in a way, and the existing walks out front are an unstained concrete. The unstained concrete that's used as a foundation for the signs there is also prevalent. We weren't trying to introduce a new appearing or different material. We weren't looking to contrast anything. So there's a question of contrasting and blending. Our idea is not regulatory, it's not prescribed. However, it is a recommendation. And so we're making a transition from regular unstained concrete out on the sidewalk into the bricks, and we found a way to do that by providing a new concrete apron that addresses accessibility and reuse of some of the bricks at the outside of that, then moving into the existing bricks, and then the use of concrete under the marker as well. That was the recommendation that we put forward.
That's good.
I'd like to mention that is the sandstone cornerstone block. They did not find a time capsule, so that's definitely from the Italian Hall building.
Okay, any further questions or discussions concerning the site plan?
Well, after we all got copies of Marcelo Webb's plan, and we were at an earlier meeting encouraged not to make hasty decisions, I'd like to make a motion that we allow their granite monument to be put in place, have the state marker temporarily put in the village garage, and then we look at an overall plan for the site instead of putting it somewhere and then digging it up. And everybody knows in a month there'll be snow, so I just don't see any urgency in making any other big decisions right now.
Okay, so there's a motion then to allow installation of the granite and to move the state marker to the public works garage. Okay, is there a second to that motion? Okay, there's no second, so that motion fails. Is there a motion to approve the site plan?
I'll make that motion.
Urge? Okay. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Jim? All right. Well, we don't need to do a site voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, okay.
We need to slow down and do things properly.
Can I give a recommendation? If you've got information that you think would be a very big help to the park, names, you talked about names for months, why not supply that to the people that are doing this fine job? Why not be help?
Why not? Because that's how I spend my lifeblood, my intellectual property rights go to my children. A lot of people get paid for how they spend their time, and this is my payment to me. I did offer to sell all my Italian Hall stuff to the park years ago. They weren't interested, and that's fine. But because it's my effort, and if they didn't want to work through me, they could have said, sweet talk me and said, okay, if you help us with this project, we'll do this for you. But there was no dialogue whatsoever. As soon as I said I wanted credit for my work, they didn't want my name there. They have an expert, Davis West, I think.
Okay, the only problem I have with all that is, you have the right to do what you do, okay, but this is something that volunteers have done, okay? And when you start talking about, I have a book and I have, they're gonna be selling the book and there's any kind of a financial gain from this, maybe you have a little conflict of interest and you can't see, what these people are trying to do. Maybe, I'm not sure.
In my 40 years of volunteering,
No,
I'm not sure.
and I'll be honest, I mean, we're off topic, so.
I understand, but
If you guys want to discuss this, I mean, probably this probably is not the appropriate place. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Sandy?
I'll second that.
Sure, all right, all in favor?
I
Any